Bill King from Nashville Sports Radio joins us on the Lewis Automotive Hotline. Bill, of course, hosting 6 to 9 Monday through Friday on WNSR, Nashville Sports Radio. He is the king of college football talk. And as I hear every once in a while, I'll come back on his show, he is always wordsmithing like a mofo. Bill, what's up? How are you?
Hey, guys. Doing good.
I love that comeback, Bill. Yeah, I was. If you can drop a mofo into a radio show, I think we're pretty pleased.
We also have a promo where it sounds like a guy accidentally drops an S-bomb when introducing the show, and there are people who actually think that's a mistake.
So St. Nick talks to, I think it was Feinbaum last week. I don't really remember who it was. It sounded like he poured a little bit of cold water on the idea of this college sports commission that President Trump wanted to form, along with, I forget the name of the big Texas Tech booster. But I'm reading about a college sports commission, which is going to have real teeth within the purview of what used to be the NCAA's enforcement arm, that this would be the new enforcement arm of college sports, the College Sports Commission, and they will have a CEO that will be one of the main power brokers in all of college sports. And I'm sure you've read about this. I don't think Saban will be the guy, but actually wouldn't be a bad choice.
Yeah. Look, having Saban somehow involved with a commission with Cody Campbell is not a bad idea. It's not going to fix anything. And the latest is they're sending a document to every school, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, ACC, that you have to sign reportedly, which says you can't sue if you disagree with, let's say, a decision Deloitte would make or some kind of rule that goes against you. And if you refuse to sign the document, expulsion is an option, meaning they can kick you out of the league you're in. And not only that, but they'll make it to where you can't schedule anybody. Now, I'm sure they're going to go back and forth with this document, but this is getting crazy.
That is crazy to think about, strong-arming members of the organization into signing away their rights within the purview of their own state laws. And this also sounds like it's an end around. It's an end around Congress to try to form some kind of enforcement mechanism that can basically be a 50-state mechanism, which, Congress is usually the only way they can do that. But, strong-arming your member institutions might not be the way to go about this.
Well, if you have a bunch of bulk, then you've got a problem because then you don't have the power. This will be interesting. I'm sure this document will go back and forth, and there'll be some haggling over it, but you can't even disagree and sue. Now, there is, we're told, an arbitration process they will have in place over decisions, but that's not quite the same.
Well, it's going to be wild because we're still pushing up against what feels like a July 1st deadline, and maybe there'll be some momentum for this House settlement sometime soon. Are we expecting a decision from the judge maybe this week or next week?
That's very unclear. And guys, you saw the news. The state of Tennessee passed into law on May 1st. Nobody knew it until a few days ago. A law. That's right. They passed a law that says the NCAA or the House case or anybody else can't come into this thing and investigate or determine payments or whatever. Basically saying you can do whatever you want if you're a university in the state of Tennessee. And I would think that story about the document was also probably fast-forwarded because of news like that.
That's crazy when you're thinking about this patchwork of laws and now an organization that's trying to supersede any of the state laws, but this state law won't allow the university to join that kind of an agreement. Man, I don't know where this goes. It sounds like a kind of a death spiral almost. But I do want to ask about, we saw that Illinois had extended Brett Bielema. It's going well for him at Illinois. In fact, we had a guest yesterday, Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. He thought Illinois may be good enough to be a playoff team out of the Big 12. Brett had a good run at Wisconsin. It didn't go very well here at Arkansas. And from your perspective, why do you think it worked for him in the Big Ten but not in the SEC?
That's a good question. Brett Bielema is a Midwestern offensive line punch-in-the-mouth coach. And that blueprint was started by Barry Alvarez prior. But that's Brett Bielema's culture. It's his DNA. And he accomplished lots and lots at Wisconsin. I really thought with the resources at Arkansas, and that's why he left, resources, to go to Arkansas, that it would really work out well. And I was shocked. It was a borderline disaster. It certainly didn't work out. But I will admit I'm a little surprised at the success he's having at Illinois. Illinois has been a dormant program for a long time. It does not have an indigenous recruiting background. Now, that state is very good, but they don't own Chicago. Notre Dame owns more Chicago than they do. They don't own Illinois recruiting. Lots of teams go in there. But they've got about 19, 20 starters back there. If you want to pick a team as a threat to the Big Ten that you wouldn't mention, particularly like Ohio State, the big brand names, Penn State, Michigan, et cetera, it'd probably be Illinois.
Who would you put in that category in the SEC? Because we think who would the big brand names in the SEC right now be? I don't think it would be Texas. It would be Alabama. It would be Georgia. You could maybe throw LSU there too. But if we're talking about like a school that would compare to Illinois in the SEC, that is on the way up, would you look at South Carolina? Is that a legitimate option?
They've got maybe the best quarterback in the country. They've got maybe the best young defensive end in the country. They're well set. They evaluate incredibly well. They don't swing and miss a lot in the portal. I would say them, and then I would say, and this is a pretty big name, but Auburn got to break out in year three. Now, to what level, I think that's a question. But I think Auburn needs to be and could be a lot more threatening this year.
And I know Freeze, I think it was last week, was on an Auburn radio show talking about, well, we know we have to make a bowl game this year. So he's already set that for himself. But I just wonder if there's the levels of bowl games here, what kind of bowl game would they be talking about to satisfy Auburn fans and Auburn boosters? And the other thing about when I watched him talk about this, he's still referencing what he was left behind, which, when you're talking about what the previous coaching staff was doing and you're about to go into your third year, maybe you're not expecting that you're about to have yourself a good year. I don't know.
I would say one of those bowls just under the postseason playoff, the bracket, would be very acceptable, and a note that they're on the way up, something like that. Yeah, I mean, you got to own the team at some point. These aren't my players is old and stale. We can also see a situation like Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee, who did not do a good job, but evaluated very well, and look what Heupel inherited. He inherited a team from, 2 years ago with Hendon Hooker that was competing for a national championship until he blew his knee. Matter of fact, he was sitting in the one slot for the Heisman at that moment. And those were Jeremy Pruitt players, so it works both ways.
Did you see about A&M with their softball team? They were the number one seed going into the tournament. They're the first softball team that's the number one seed to ever not make it out of their own regional. Baseball was preseason number one. Now they're unranked. They're playing today, and they're probably not making the postseason. Men's basketball blew, I think it was an 18-point lead in the round of 32. Their women's basketball team finished dead last. And football started 8-1 and then lost, 4 of their last 5 games? Kind of forgettable year for A&M. But I still feel like Elko's got that football program pointed in the right direction. Do you?
I do too. That was just launching the first year. Remember about the 2/3 mark or right in there. They were sitting there, and you look at the rest of the schedule, and you're thinking they could be in the championship game. Obviously, it collapsed down the stretch, and they couldn't cover the pass. But look, A&M is a resource-rich potential superpower. Nobody's ever been able to crack the code, and the softball team is the 1 seed, losing and not getting out of your regional for the first time ever, and that sport is the old such an A&M thing, right? Only A&M can do that better than anybody else.
Now, I know you're big on college baseball. They've changed the SEC tournament structure. I love what they've done with this because it puts a premium on finishing in the top 4, and you only have to play no more than 3 games. I know Vanderbilt, I think, will have to play on Wednesday, so they don't have to play any more than 4. Will you watch many of these SEC tournament games, and what do you think about this format?
Format I'm indifferent about. Doesn't really matter to me. I'll watch them. Yeah, I'll watch them. I'm just wondering, and I know you would never necessarily plan this, but I'm just wondering, with wear and tear on arms and everything else, would you be better off just losing and heading home rather than grinding this thing out? I've gone back and forth on that one because the plan obviously is to compete until it's over, but you may be better health-wise, just feeling fresh, getting the heck out of Dodge and getting home and getting ready for the regionals.
It's the feeling that the SEC baseball tournament may not have a lot of meaning to it. I think a lot of folks may feel the same way about the football championship. Maybe not quite to the same level, but the championship games and the conferences lost some of their meaning because both teams already made it to the playoff, and then we're shown that maybe it's a good thing if you have to play in the first round. So, but that these tournaments will never go away, just like the championship games won't ever go away. But it sounds like in the upcoming plan that we may have some play-in games near the end of the regular season, which is a whole other round of playoffs that would occur in the SEC and the Big Ten.
Well, not only that, but the SEC spring meetings in Sandustin, Florida, starts in about a week. And there's talk that they'll go ahead and agree to a night league. And now they're going to have to figure out how to make all this fit.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing and we're into the NBA and NHL playoffs, and BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Bet online, the game starts here.